there, and welcome to the Hope and Helps podcast. Derek Evans here, your host. This is, of course, where we together try to find the calm amidst the chaos of daily life. Today we're going to talk about worrying, and specifically why we worry all the time and how to stop it. My favorite saying is that worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. Have you ever caught your thoughts just jumping from one worry to the next and wondered, why is this happening? Do I really have this much to worry about? Well, the reason that this happens is very simple. It appears to us, and it appears to our consciousness and to our mind and to our survival to be necessary to do this. And there are two reasons why. Number one, at some point in the past, we didn't worry about something and we got burned by it. Perhaps we had a good locked-in job. We were at our job for 10 years. We knew everyone there. They liked us. We felt important there. And then all of a sudden one day we get a pink slip. We weren't worried about our job. And clearly we should have been, right? We should have been worried. Every day we should have been worried. Because we lost our job. And we weren't prepared for it. Reason number two. At some point in the past, we worried about something. And it turned out to be a good thing we did. You could use that same example. You could use the same example of, well, we were worried about our job every day for the 10 years that we worked there. And then that day when we got that pink slip, we had a backup plan in place. Good thing I had that backup plan in place. So these are the two reasons that continually reinforce our worrying. Of course, this type of reinforcement does major damage. And it can happen with small things too. It could just be little things like not spilling something on the carpet or getting something dirty. Just little stuff like that. You worry about it. You say, oh, don't do that. Use this so that you don't get it dirty. And, things like that happen all the time, especially with little kids. But each time, the damage that's done is major. A little piece of our true nature actually flakes away. I know so many people who allow their mind to jump from one worry to the next all day long. As soon as they're done worrying about one thing, it's like they rack their brain. They search for the next thing to worry about until they find it. This seems as though it would be an effective strategy for the prevention of suffering, which is what most worrying is. The prevention of suffering. We worried about the job because we didn't want to suffer if we lost our job. It also appears to be an effective strategy, worrying, in preparing for a worst case scenario. But is this really true? Is it really true that this is a good strategy? Is it really true that we need to do this in order to live a good life? That's what we're all trying to do. We just want to live a good life. Here's the illusion. When we worry, it takes us away from this natural state because worrying almost always happens in the future. Therefore, when we worry, we're not in the present moment. That's our natural state of grace. That's the natural. That's our true nature, is the present moment. And when we worry, we're not in the present moment. So it takes away our natural state of grace and wonder. If we jump from one worry to the next, then we will literally never be present. Now, is that living? I don't think so. In fact, I would call that suffering. That's what suffering is to me. To be trapped in a cycle of worrying that never stops. Which is exactly, it's interesting because I would call worrying suffering. But by worrying, suffering is exactly what we're trying to prevent. Now, I use an example in the blog. This would be like wearing a helmet that causes brain damage just by wearing it. You're wearing the helmet to prevent brain damage, going bicycling or whatever, but just wearing the helmet itself actually causes brain damage. That's what worrying is. That's exactly what it is. We worry in an attempt to control our fate, to control the future events in our lives, good or bad, big or small. The more we try to control, the more we try to control, the more we try to control, the more we try to control. It's one of those phrases you can say over and over. That's exactly what happens in our mind when we try to control outcomes. It's a never-ending pit of despair. There's no way to control every single variable in the equation of life. It can't be done. However, if you try to control just one of those variables, you'll notice very quickly how many other things are involved, how many other variables could disrupt your plan. Now, all of those things need to be controlled as well. It never ends. When you break down what a worry is, this is exactly what's happening. We're trying to control life so that thing we're worrying about doesn't happen. Rarely, however, does the worrier think past that. We become so focused on that worry that we don't think beyond satisfying that worry. So, what if we succeed in staving off this catastrophe or this concern? Will there be nothing else to worry about in life? Will we be at the end of the road? Will we find bliss there? Unfortunately, the worrywart mentality is actually a life philosophy. If you subscribe to it and it works for you and you're happy, hey, more power to you. I'm the last person who's going to tell you how to live your life. The whole point of this podcast, the whole point of the website, hopeithelps.org, is to hopefully provide information that helps. If you don't need help, then good, great. You're one of the few. But what's really interesting about this worrywart philosophy is that I think there are a lot of people subscribed to it who don't realize it and who don't want to be subscribed to it. And that is who this post and this podcast is for. I wanted to tell a story about the zombie killers. This was a really funny moment. I'm going to try to find the link and put it in the blog. I interviewed the CEO of a solar company on my radio show one time, and he was a super funny guy, just a great interview. I asked him about off-the-grid solar power, which is where you're not actually plugged into the grid. You know, normal solar, it unwinds your utility bill. In other words, you pump the power back to the power company, and the power company then gives you credit. Sometimes you can actually get money from the power company if you pump them back enough energy. The problem with that, though, is if the power goes out and there's a blackout, you've got solar, but you're still blacked out because you have to go through the power company. So off-the-grid solar is, in my mind, the only kind of solar that makes sense in getting, because what's the point here? And I asked him about off-the-grid solar, and he immediately said, "Are you a zombie killer?" And I just started cracking up. Basically, he was asking if I was a prepper, or someone who is preparing for the zombie apocalypse, if you will. Preppers have the most severe case of the worries. Someone should remind them that human beings lived on this planet for millions of years without electricity, without man-made items of any kind. If it really came to that, we would figure it out. It's what we've always done. However, these folks go to extreme lengths to store food, weapons, water, seeds, all kinds of stuff. Even build special shelters and bunkers, all in preparation for a horrific event that I'm sure they themselves would admit is very, very unlikely. So why do they do it? Why would they go to all this time, energy, money, effort to do something, to build something that is for an event that we will all admit is extremely unlikely? It's the same reasons that people who aren't preppers jump from one worry to the next. They subscribe to the worrywart philosophy. And they do that because they believe that if you prepare enough, if you have enough preparation, You can control the future. I can't tell you what an act in futility this is. In a world of infinite possibilities, which is the one that we live in, there is no amount of preparation that will control any aspect of the future. There are too many possibilities to prepare for, and no guarantee, by the way, we will even be around to witness any of them. So the truth here is, worrying has not worked. It's made things worse. However, as human beings, we like to figure stuff out. We do. We think we're really smart, and we are. We are really smart. And we like to figure stuff out, and that's part of who we are. Worrying is a way of doing that. Figuring out a plan B is a way of doing that. Figuring out a way to be safe is a way of doing that. It's these strong urges that we have, which allowed us to survive through a tremendous amount of ups and downs over the past 4.5 million years, which is when they traced back to what we believe is the first bipedal, or the first upright walking form of a human being. In fact, the coding in our DNA that represents these patterns of behavior is likely much older than that. It could go all the way back. We know that the worrying is through the reptilian brain. That's what causes us to worry, fight or flight, autonomic nervous system. It's not the dog brain or the limbic brain, and it's certainly not the cortex brain or the human brain, which is the frontal cortex. It's got to be the reptilian brain. Well, the reptilian brain is over 300 million years old. So it literally could trace all the way back to dinosaurs. It could trace all the way back to reptiles of some sort. It could trace all the way back to species that no longer exist on the planet and haven't since we've been here. It goes way back. Let's put it that way. But the reality is, and the truth is, we don't need it anymore. It's funny. I can just hear my old self saying things like this. I told you so. I told you we should have been worried about X. We should have been worried about this. Look at what's happened. We could have prevented that. You see these things all the time if you go out in public a lot. You hear parents talking to their kids, or spouses talking to one another. When somebody drops something, someone makes a mistake, someone chooses the wrong line to get in, or anything like that. We're so worried about all this stuff that doesn't matter one damn bit. It really doesn't. And you just go, man, what a waste of energy. That's sad. Instead of being in awe of the wonder that surrounds us at every moment, here we are worried about stuff that doesn't matter one bit. It doesn't even matter to us. And we are just ants on this planet. And it really doesn't even matter to our lives, much less anything else that has to do with the world, far be it the universe. But this type of second guessing is part of the worry wart philosophy. Comes right along with it. Constantly looking in hindsight to, see what possible actions could have been taken to prevent this future situation. Going, oh man, well, next time I'm going to do it this way. So I want to make sure this doesn't happen. You can't do it. The whole mindset of trying to control that outcome and thinking that you have some sort of way to do that is the wrong mindset. That's part of the worry wart philosophy. It doesn't serve us one bit. So the solution, the only way out of this trap, is self-awareness. Ultimately, if we want a way out of the worry wart philosophy, we have to learn to let go. It's very difficult to do. We grasp so much. We're holding it all the time. We're holding everything. We're tense. We're strangling it. And we've got to let it go completely. Let it slip through our hands. But a lot of times it starts with releasing the grasp slightly. We're holding on. We're white-knuckling it. You can still hold on to start. Just loosen your grip. Allow yourself to accept an infinity of possibilities. It can be done. I know because I've done it. I was brought up with an extremely worrisome set of parents. My parents are amazing people, but they are both worrywarts. My mother especially. And I grew to become one as well. However, we can retrain ourselves to see the beauty in not worrying, which is so much more gorgeous than the things that you get from worrying. If you can just talk yourself into giving it a try, what you'll find is you'll actually be reinforced over and over. Most of the things that we worry about never actually happen. If we can become aware enough to recognize when we're worrying, let go of that just a few times, then watch the results. You'll find that the things you're worried about are almost entirely a waste of time, a waste of energy, and in my mind, a waste of precious life on earth. We only have so much time. It's not worth worrying about. I think that when you boil this down, at the end of the day, if you can let go, if you can pay attention to the results, you'll notice this happening over and over, and the pattern will change. The pattern in your mind won't be, won't be that, I need to worry in order to protect this, in order to protect what I have, in order to protect what is going on. I need to worry. What you'll find is that, actually, I really don't need to worry at all. When you open up that space in your brain, and when you open up that space in your heart, it can change so much. It can allow so much more energy to flow to the things that are more nourishing and more helpful to you achieving your goals and living the life that you want and being in the bliss that you deserve. Happy meditating. I really hope this helps. Namaste.